Followers of my channel might know that I used to live in the middle of nowhere. I grew up with the closest Walmart being an hour drive, and the downtown didn't even have a single restaurant. This was very long ago, but when I drive through the town, I have a pretty good memory of the place. Not only are the buildings practically the same, besides from a brand new Dollar General, but all the places I would regularly visit are still around as well. The library, the school, the fire station, and the pseudo-log cabin, where I did Cub Scouts, are still there. I found out recently that the school my sister went to closed down, and the playground that I used to play at all the time was overgrown and rusted. But out of all the places I used to visit regularly, there is one place that holds the most special chamber of my heart: the bowling alley. I spent many days in the bowling alley. Not only did I do a youth bowling league, but it's also where the family would gather for birthdays, New Year's Eve, and the occasional just random day. I spent most of the time eating Funyuns from the vending machine, which I actually really dislike now, and playing an old arcade cabinet that was there. 25 cents would get you 3 lives, and I would get 1 quarter every time my father and I went there. I would have a relatively limited time to play, but I would always try and make the best of it. This was before I got my first home console, the Nintendo 64. At this bowling alley in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, I found my first love of gaming: Metal Slug.
Metal Slug!
Metal Slug is a run-and-gun game originally created by Nazca Corporation, who eventually merged with SNK in 1996. It was originally developed for the Neo Geo arcade machines and their home consoles. Metal Slug now lives on many platforms, including Steam and the more famous Metal Slug Collection, which released in 2006. Metal Slug featured simple controls for movement, shooting, ducking, jumping, and even throwing grenades. You start off with a pistol and acquire other weapons like the machine gun, flamethrower, and rocket launcher by grabbing pickups in the game, usually given to you by rescued POWs. Enemy placement is used to eat your quarters, like hiding enemies in the scenery or having them be in hard to get places like, what the fuck is this? Vehicles like the tank, also known as the Super Vehicle 1, were also found in levels as well, which changed the gameplay pretty drastically until the enemy destroys them. The game features cartoony graphics with a World War II/Vietnam era vibe, which really adds to the overall experience. It is hard to say which era they are going for with this game, with the imagery and character designs conflicting. The aspect of the Metal Slug series was to create a simple but exciting side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game with a very easy control scheme. The same team created Metal Slug for the Neo Geo previously created several games for a company called Irem, which have very similar graphics and gameplay, such as Gun Force from 1991, In the Hunt from 93, and Gun Force 2 from 94. Irem was originally a company that sold arcade cabinets to cotton candy stores as early as the 1970s, who gave us gems such as Moon Patrol, Kung Fu Master, and R-Type. Nazca Corporation formed after a group of employees from Irem's video game division left the company. SNK went through some tough times in the early 2000s, but were able to restore their brand with a new logo and name change to SNK Playmore Corporation. This leads us back to my love for Metal Slug. In that old bowling alley where I would bowl with other kids who thought video games were dumb, I would be the only one at the arcade cabinet anytime I went there. It was sure as the sun would rise. When I walked into that place, the cabinet would be standing there waiting for me to drop my quarter in. Metal Slug would be the only video game I would play until I got a Nintendo 64 in 2001 at the age of 8. I had mastered the use of 1 quarter, making it through the entire first level without losing a life, then the second level soon after. The third level, featuring a winter mountain climb, I would lose all 3 of my lives just doing the first section. I never did get around to playing the rest of the game. Very rarely I would get more than 1 quarter to play, and usually during a second quarter attempt I would be whisked away to actually do what I was at the bowling alley to do. You know, bowl. The game had a bunch of boss fights, difficult enemy placements, and exciting adventures to have. With every new section done without losing a life, I had a sense of accomplishment filled within me, even if I did die moments after. I eventually moved away from Nowhere, Ohio, sometime after my 10th birthday, but before that happened, the bowling alley changed out Metal Slug for a game where you controlled a spaceship scrolling across a sci-fi space station, shooting aliens. I would spend years after drawing pictures of the cartoony tank and characters and making my own levels with army men. Even after my time with the game was over, I still thought about it constantly. I wouldn't play any version of Metal Slug again until the Wii version of the Metal Slug Anthology came around. Right now, there is a new Metal Slug in development for the Android and iOS under the title Metal Slug Code J, which appears to be a remake of Metal Slug 1, 2, and 3 together. Other than that, there were many sequels and a few re-releases throughout the years, like Metal Slug X, which is a redone version of Metal Slug 2, and Metal Slug XX, a revised version of Metal Slug 7, which was also the last released Metal Slug game on the DS. There are a few games that have tried to emulate the style of Metal Slug with its run-and-gun genre and cartoon graphics, like Broforce and Mercenary Kings, but none lived up to the nostalgia and love I have for Metal Slug. With its fast gameplay and one-hit difficulty, I was drawn in. At the time, I didn't even know what World War II was, or even what a gun looked like, but given the exciting soundtrack combined with the fun graphics, I didn't need context. Every time someone asks me what my first gaming memory is, I always think back to the days where I was in a smelly, smoky bowling alley that my dad drove us to early so I could just drop a quarter in that arcade machine and play my first ever video game, Metal Slug.
Mission complete.